Всем привет! Сегодня продолжим игру Stories The Path of Destiny. И начнем, наверное, с того, что в прошлый раз закончили. Смотрим историю. Так, вышло так, что нас предал... мы спасли Лапину, нашли Зенобию, поддержали Лапину, этот сумасшедший кролик, и не доставлять Зенобию к дознавателям мы решили, потому что у них типа офигеть, они команда. И потом все закончилось не очень хорошо, кореш нас предал. Теперь мы выбрали другой путь. Мы пойдем забирать там какой-то артефакт, потому что его император этот или король, или кто там, эта жаба, решила забрать. Поэтому по логике вещей проще у него забрать оружие, чтобы потом он хуже сопротивлялся. Так, сейчас надо будет сориентируемся как по звуку. О, жара, конечно, сегодня. Кошмар прям.
Every child could sing verses about the Sky Ripper, but ancient codices held hints of other things. A stone that ate souls, a ruby that drank blood, a jewel only a righteous man could give away. Were all these things the Iblis stone? Long hidden in the buried temple? Another ancient item that was only resurfacing now? Drawn up from the deeps by the Emperor's horrific rituals?
Тут это все камень Иблиса виноват, и все будем разыскивать. Сегодня не будем читать, потому что я пересмотрел стрим, проще уже либо читать по монитору, либо я буду читать, ну и вообще там говорить, потому что и озвучка здесь хорошая, на английском, все же голос рассказчика офигенный, прям в точку. И зайдем, посмотрим, что у нас здесь. О, еще один. Давай, открывайся. Откройся. Так. Линия. Приятели. Так, что у нас тут новое?
Trusty old sword was always a little better when he sharpened it.
Так, погнали.
Renato distrusted doors that opened automatically, especially after being buried for millennia. Was this some sort of trap?
Леонардо не доверял автоматическим дверям, тем более, что ими не пользовались 100 лет, и так что это могла быть вполне ловушка. разучился играть.
Ravens were already here,
были здесь,
cawing in frustration. They were still searching for a way in. Good. Then he hadn't come too late.
Все еще ищет дорогу внутрь.
His mother had never let him wave his sword around at home. He guessed he was still compensating for that.
Так, что выбираем? Крюк. Щит на крюк. При попадании крюка в противника со щитом щит отлетит прочь, он будет уязвим. Долбусь все время с этим бросанием. Мне интересно. Еще одно умение есть. Цельте на противника рывок и пройдите сквозь него, нанеся урон. Не работает, если противник вооружен щитом. Атакуйте враг с любого расстояния, автоматически активируется при достижении определенного порога комбо. Увеличьте свой максимум. Эти урон ничем при захвате нанесите урон.
Nice. That could be useful.
Так. Помним немного. Начало.
Time to die, he thought. And it was.
Топовая фраза. Пора умирать, подумал он и вышел.
Can I borrow that? If they didn't want their things broken, they really ought to make them stronger.
Здесь поудобнее. Как не тот меч? А какой не тот меч? Не тот меч. Не тот меч. И не тот меч. Хорошо. Очень полезные мечи были собраны.
felt like Tarzan.
Сюда как? Назад. А, нет, так, так. Такое.
Huh? A lever? That was new. Most people still use doorknobs.
Может, туда и пройду. Такое. Героические просадили. Попробуем.
Gonna charge for the whole.
Портной за эти все дырки в одежде. Главная проблема.
The Ravens at least could not get past this point. Obviously, the temple builders knew how to deal with tomb raiders.
Как-то, может, туда мог спуститься, в такую сторону, может, не знаю. Может, здесь такой какой-то вариант, то, что при выборе разных действий одна и та же локация проходит по-разному.
This would be the perfect place for a tic-tac-toe board. It was a stone of the purest blackness. It reflected no light, like a void made solid. Nervous, he picked it up. Who said that? It was the stone. Eager, thirsty. That seemed tempting and terribly wrong. Zenobia was the Emperor's greatest general and a potent witch. But they had been close once, and Renato wasn't sure he really wanted to be Emperor. Why not capture the core of Sky Ripper instead? It was the eye of a lost god, torn out by the transcendent Emperor to power his greatest weapon. It's the core, said the stone anxiously.
Так, понятное дело, что мы выберем. Я лично за камень. Берем камень. Камень надоел ему. Он не любил, когда ему указывают, что делать.
Wasn't that why he joined the rebellion? Wasn't that why he'd refused to be a soldier? He'd agreed to come on board only if he could freelance. The stone felt a bit clingy. The sage Calaveras had told him where to find the Sky Ripper, a weapon capable of challenging the gods. Even without its armature, the core would still possess great power. He would go there.
Ну, 24 варианта. Я точно не пройду столько вариантов.
The moment he landed the Farfarer, Renato had a rare feeling of regret. It's not too late, he thought. He could turn around and sail for Zenobia's island. He frowned. Wait a minute. He didn't want to kill Zenobia, did he? Sure, technically she was the enemy, but they'd been at Sword Fu school together. They'd never been lovers, but somehow they'd been closer. She'd told him every secret about herself, except the biggest one, that she was the Emperor's daughter. No, kill Zenobia, whispered the stone, before it's too late.
С этой стороны. Кусок земли зашел чуть. Зачем рисовали? Куда я? Ну ладно, что-то я не прочитал. Так.
Renato felt a little bad stealing crafting materials from the chests. There was something sour in the air, like the earth had ruptured over something that had been fermenting for a very long time.
Или камень вечно шепчет. Камень. Не самый веселый вариант, только.
Can you guys actually tell each other apart? Because I'm thinking name tags.
stone hadn't lied about what it could do for him. With each raven he cut down, he felt a jolt of power flowing into his arm. "You're weak," whispered the stone. "The core will kill you. Are you afraid of it?" "No, don't be ridiculous," it chuckled. But it's unstable. If a poison you so just carry it, and if you try to use it, it will explode. Renato did not trust rocks that talked in his head. He went onwards.
You don't smell any better when you're dead.
As he approached the core, the stone became hysterical.
Он подошел к ядру, с камнем случилась истерика. Нет, слишком мало силы. Он пробил дыру в пространстве и время.
He had a sudden vision of plunging his gauntlet into the core and dying in
Он вонзает свою перчатку в ядро и умирает в муку. Это не его видение. Так камень передает ему свои самые жуткие страхи.
He had a sudden impulse to do exactly that.
Внезапно захотел сделать
He raised his right fist and plunged it into the core. There was a rush of light.
Поднял правую руку.
He thought he could hear the stone screaming. And then he passed out. When Renato came to, the core was gone. But the Iblis stone was no longer black, but glowing with a blue light. And it was silent. "I can't hear you," he sang out. And, "You!"
Я тебя не слышу.
"Ha!" he said. He had defeated the demonic gem with the power of his mind. He felt invincible. It was time to attack the Imperial outpost on the Nexus. Take the battle to the enemy. But among the huge crystals, there was also an observatory. A wise man would probably ask the scientists exactly what he had first. How wise was he?
Так, давай. Совета не вредно, совет всегда можно проигнорировать. Перенесем войну на территорию врага. Так. Что будем делать? Может, давай этот? На территорию врага или спросить совета? Ну, спросить совета можно, но мне кажется, просто растянем время. Ученый знал бы ответ. Пойду спрошу.
As the Farfarer made its way toward the Nexus, Renato could see tiny sparks in the blackness that was the Iblis stone. As if somewhere within it, the core was still spitting out energy, which the Iblis stone sucked in hungrily. You'd think the stone would want this kind of power, wouldn't it? Thought Renato. Well, the scientists would explain it all.
Ага, воевать. Так, ну такое. Да, можно было пойти повоевать, но мне кажется, то, что не очень было бы этого умно.
See? He'd
Вот видишь,
trusted his
он
gut,
доверился
and
своему
it had
чутью, и
worked
все
out.
сработало.
That's what it meant to be a hero. To ignore the naysayers and the odd-makers and do what you knew was right and have it turn out to be the right thing. Well, he wasn't worried. Once he got to the observatory, the scientist toads could explain it. Then he could carry the war into the enemy's camp and destroy them all. Oh dear, he was getting a little bloodthirsty, wasn't he?
Типа он считал так как он герой, поэтому он все и делает, ну, принимает правильные решения. Все просто. Так, по-моему, я по этой территории уже бегаю.
That had gone rather well, actually.
Так, еще чуть-чуть. И уровень поднимем. Так, сейчас. Все.
Well, they really needed to redecorate anyway.
Тупо как ни крути, не тот меч, не тот меч, не тот меч.
Renata felt ready to take on new powers.
Назад. Давай, быстрее уровни пробегать.
Renato had never felt better in his life. Normally, a battle would wear him down and he would need a night's sleep. Now he felt like he could go all night and all day. He felt like people were cheering him on and he could practically hear their applause as he slew one raven after another.
Он прям чувствовал то, что ему энергия уже не так устает, как раньше.
Renato wondered if his future self had commissioned these poles.
Подожди, а туда я никак, да?
Renato had always wanted a flying carpet.
Я навсегда
This was
мечтал о
more like a
самолете.
flying tabletop. But it would do.
Больше был похож на стол самолет, и так сойдет. Ну, этот раз тоже я пройду один из вариантов. Камень Иблиса и ядро Небореза, 2 артефакта легендарной эпохи.
Bernardo was becoming a legendary hero, wasn't he?
Бernардо станет
He had
легендарным
enough power
героем,
to
не так?
save the rebellion, but he had to understand this power, so he would not misuse it.
Ему надо понять эту силу, чтобы ее не злоупотреблять. Так. Ну, в принципе. О, хорошо. Нет, нет.
Fire? Yes, please.
О, открыл какой-то Масамуна. Это для данных таких парней. Ха. Что? В Стиме открылось достижение какое-то. Ну, шо? О, прикольно.
Energy spheres.
Ow.
Easy to dodge, but
Практически
really sting if you didn't pay attention.
Ну это что за...
Some people are just liable to explode if you upset them.
Он взрывается. Несколько импульс удара для броска не взрывается. Крути их, чтобы... Я понял. Давай, давай.
Those flames really bring out your eyes.
Так, АКБшки-то кончились. Ай-яй-яй-яй-яй.
No wonder his mother had told him to eat his fruit.
Удивительно может стрелять, есть его фрукт.
The toads at the observatory measured the stone with their occult devices. I fed it the core of Sky Ripper, explained Renato. No more the planet souls.
But the core is not an unlimited energy source,
said one toad. Another said,
There's a feedback loop which could overload the stone. The stone doesn't actually feed on souls,
claimed a third.
but on pain of killing another sentient being. If you can truly be at peace with yourself, it would not overload.
This was all very confusing. At peace? Yes, the mountains were peaceful and quiet, but he now had the power to turn the tides. He should report to the Rebellion Council and prepare for the decisive battle.
Так, что типа камню души не нужны, а нужны именно убийства других живых существ. Так, в мире... Да, в этом есть какой-то смысл. Ядро защищало Ренарду, темное влияние камня и близко. Но слишком много убийств перегрузит камень. Ему необходимо было найти внутренний покой для поддержания баланса. Но перегрузка ядра не звучала обнадеживающе. Может, Ренардо мог попытаться найти покой быстро, а затем вернуться в схватку вовремя, чтобы спасти восстание. В мире? Нет. От него зависит судьба восстания. Ядро защищало Эрнардо от темного влияния камня убийств, но слишком много убийств перегрузит ткань. Ему необходимо было найти внутренний покой для поддержания баланса. Чтобы найти покой, необходимое время, которое не было у восстания Эрнардо. Вместо Уга. Ренард должен был сосредоточиться на миссии. Он должен был сохранить восстание, пока это было возможно. Сейчас же на базу повстанцев. Ой, добром не кончится. Наверное, я думаю, сюда рискнуть. Из всех доводов жаб он понял одно. Наверное, камень не питается ни кровью, ни душой, ни яростью.
On
Он
empathy.
питается эмпатией.
It fed on the pain he felt when he put an end to another being's existence. Even if that other being was a raven intent on killing him. If he could find peace, then he could use the power of the Ibla Stone without being taken over by its evil. The mountains. He would go to the mountains. He could find peace there.
Так, что еще такое делать?
Unfortunately, the mountains were not empty. There were ravens everywhere, no matter. He had to fight, yes, but he didn't have to be angry. Parry, dodge, slash, and breathe. Yes, focus on the rhythm, the dance of it. Not on the blood or the raven's core as they died. Ah, it was working. He wasn't feeling those dark jolts of eldritch energy. He wasn't feeding the Iblis Stone. It was definitely easier to fight inanimate objects.
Ой. Еще что у нас есть?
The stone was still silent. His mind was his own, and his heart too. He bore them no ill will, these ravens. They were doing their job. They were expressing their nature. Dance, whirl, parry, jab, and breathe. It was all so simple, wasn't it? But something was missing. He didn't feel truly at peace. Wait. Wasn't this near where Calavera lived? Maybe that a sage would help him figure it all out. That is how we do it, said Bernardo to himself.
Всех шатали. Нормально. Ой-ой-ой-ой-ой. Ладно. Можно попробовать в следующий раз того же кролика пойти и подкрывать те места. Да, крыша едет не спеша. вроде это не должно работать. Да, не работает.
Oh, this really didn't have much in the way of safety features, did it?
Техники безопасности. Естественно, нет. Ну, все себе. Пойти руки так. Как надо хпшки, дают хпшки. Дают руку, как не надо. Сейчас, как не надо хпшки, дают хпшки. Не нужна мана. Вот на это.
He once met a pirate captain who used hooks to get around his ship. Oh, what was his name again?
Все, разрубим петролеры.
Sometimes, at home, he'd wave his sword around for hours. The Iblis Stone, silenced by the Sky Ripper's core, had given Leonardo enough power to challenge the Imperial fleet. But what Leonardo was seeking was inertia. The rebellion was on the verge of extinction, but it would have to wait.
Ломаем тут пока все. Давай. Ну, попасть. Куда есть? Так, хорошо. Ну, где какой-то еще кореш? А, вот.
At the end of the mountain path, he found the wise Calaveras in his workshop. To fix souls or only
Нашел
artifacts?
мудреца.
He asked the sage.
Does your
Душа чинил, душа
soul need
нуждается в
fixing?
починке.
Asked the sage. I've been killing a lot of ravens lately.
В последнее время
He
я
told
был
the
много
sage.
You're a
Ты
fox.
убивать птиц,
Said
это часть твоей
Calaveras.
природы.
And to kill birds is part of your nature. Take joy in it. I mean, I might as well worry about eating flies. Would you like a fly?
Переживать из-за того,
It
что
was
ем.
true. That's what he had forgotten.
Они
The
позабывают.
joy. Now he was ready for the final
Решающей
battle.
битвы.
The Farfarer cut through the clouds.
Собрался.
The air had never felt so sweet since he was a child. There it was. The dreaded Imperial fleet. He could smell wet hemp ropes ahead, wood and tar
Приятный пах.
and ravens. Even the fleet smelt good, somehow. He was ready. He was ready.
Так, я так понимаю, что вот она, все, финальная битва, дальше выбирать нечего. Тут сейчас либо все закончится хорошо, либо мне опять кто-то ушатается. Вот. Мудрец.
Renato had it all squared
Цитаты
away in his
великих
head.
людей.
He would
Хочешь
kill
муху?
the Emperor. Isengrim III had begun well, but he had gone mad. He was trying to invoke the lost gods by means of dark, blasphemous rituals. That was a secret. But the victims had spoken to Renato. The ghosts had spoken. No. No anger. Renato could not afford anger. It was empowering the crystal in his sword. That made him stronger, but it clouded his mind. He would not be a hero. A hero strives. Renato would just be one with everything. The Emperor would die, and the wheel would turn, and all would be restored without rancor, without sorrow, without pain.
А у меня до сих пор такое не может.
Don't get ahead of yourself, lad. Said Renato, but he couldn't hear his enemy's answer.
Так, апнулись. А, это не могу открыть, не могу. Все, давай. Где финалочка? Нет, финалочка еще. Ладно.
When Renato went to the china shop, for some reason the owner was always nervous.
Так, полетели.
In this chest, there were woodcuts of amazingly beautiful vixens wearing no clothes at all, and something more useful.
Ничего.
Smelt burnt fur. His. It's got even worse.
Так, что дальше?
marshmallows.
В конце все было хорошо, просрать все это.
But the more he thought about it, and he had so much more time to think about it now that he was not worrying about the battle, killing the Emperor would not change anything. Another would take his place. Perhaps Zenobia. Perhaps the Speaker of the Rebel Council, and power would corrupt them too, and death would make grief, and grief would lead to hatred. He must lead by example. Reject the violence. Reject the desire to create violence. But how?
Отказаться от насилия. Ну, не знал.
He wished there were more pylons he could use the hook on. He really needed to construct additional pylons. Small step for a fox, he thought.
Маленький шаг для лиса, подумала. Ай, shit. Лучший! Так. А у меня маловато сразу хп. Так.
Ought to put a railing on this thing, he thought.
Хватит умирать. Да, тут уже должно попахивать финишем, но я тут умираю. Давай еще мне.
Soon he'd confront the Emperor. Funny that this whole war had come about because the Emperor feared death. Now it was coming for him. There was some sort of lesson there, wasn't there?
Волшебники умеют смягчать удары и лечить врагов. Защищенные вороны очень опасны. Я понял, окей.
Finally, he came to the
Он
Emperor's
добрался
ship.
до корабля.
The path behind him was strewn with dead ravens.
The
path to enlightenment. His mistake, he realized, was trying to change the world. The world would spin and the wheel would revolve whether he strove against it or not. What he had to do was nothing. He had attained enlightenment. He sat down, adopted a full lotus position, and began to meditate. And all around him, the warriors stopped fighting too. They knew. They could feel his enlightenment. They gave up fighting, dropped their weapons, and became his disciples. No, just kidding. The nearest raven stabbed him with a sword and then chopped off his head. I might not have thought this through properly. Thought Renado's head as it rolled around the deck and died. Renato stared at the book. He was still alive, again, and still only flying away from burning Ubar. Had he lived that adventure, or only dreamt it? Had he really died? It felt so real, not like a dream at all. And he'd lost again. He hated that. But he had made different choices. And he'd lost in a different way. It was the book, wasn't it? Oracles showed you your destiny. But this was showing him different ways he could die miserably. Thanks a bunch, book, he thought. But these were destinies that he did not have to fulfill. But he'd learn another true thing. The Iblis Stone was evil. It would try to corrupt anyone who used it.
Охренеть. Тупо чувак сел посреди боя медитировать и сдох. Я даже вот не знаю, как это произошло. Да, это типа ворона морда. Точно башкой ударился. Офигеть.
There must be a destiny where he survived and won. Otherwise, what was the point? And with that, the book's pages fluttered back once more to the beginning, and the clouds parted over the Isles of Boreas. It was time to choose. The rebellion was in trouble. Ravens were scouting for the secret rebel base. They needed a game changer. Pieces of the Sky Ripper had surfaced. Or so a scholar in the mountains had told him. Surely the weapon that banished the lost gods could defeat the Emperor. Also, a temple had risen out of empty desert. The Iblis Stone was hidden there. It was a dangerous artifact. It could corrupt its user into a bloodthirsty monster. Maybe he could find a way to use it. To take its power without surrendering to its wickedness. And also, his old friend Lapino needed rescuing. Of course, Renato had a pretty strong suspicion that Lapino had betrayed the rebellion. But could Renato really leave an old friend to the Ravens?
Ну да, в принципе, можно было пойти к мудрецу. И что? Да, он типа шибко умным не был бы, но камень завладел бы им. Варианты. Короче, завтра попробуем. Или послезавтра, или потом какой-то следующий день попробуем другой вариант. На сегодня все, в принципе. Часик поиграли. У нас выполнен 5-й вариант и 15-й. Возвращение хиппи и сомнения прочее. Пойдем в следующий раз через...
Every child knew about the Sky Ripper. The Transcendent Emperor had buried its pieces. What could have brought them to light? This Emperor, Isengrim III, had once been kind, but he'd gone mad. And now he was conducting secret, obscene rituals to bring back the lost gods. Had he, somehow, summoned the long-lost components of the legendary weapon out of the deep places of the earth? It was more than Renato could fathom. But if he could find a legendary weapon, he would use it. As he set foot on the island, Renato couldn't help feeling a bit curious. Was Lapino still waiting to be rescued? No. He was probably drinking champagne with the ravens. Did ravens drink champagne? Did rabbits? Renato felt oddly thirsty, come to think of it. Why had he chosen the Sky Ripper? Renato never made plans that required constant vigilance. He was a hero. He didn't think too much. He just went with his gut and hoped it all worked out. The Sky Ripper was a long shot. He'd have to devote himself to it. No side journeys, no rescuing old friends. That was against his nature. Could he stick with it? Get all the ingredients for a pretty nifty sword.
Сложить какой-то меч. Фу, блин, невозможно. Тачки за окном не слишком громко ездят. Давай новый меч.
This sword from the frigid north was really useful for making popsicles and birdsicles.
Кто? Опять это...
Two eyes good. One eye dead.
Возгоршу один глаз спокойно. Давай, открывайся.
The people who had built this castle, did they even know what monstrous weapon lay hidden within their walls? The Sky Ripper could destroy anything it touched, or so the legend said. As the Transcendent Emperor had fought the lost gods, thousands of thousands had died. But Renato had been through wars. The only merciful war was a short one. Come in handy in a pinch.
Подожди, а как мне сюда? Да, 1 хп. Прям, знаешь, как будто в меня в танках выстрелили. Вроде бы ваншотнул, а нет.
What's there?
Исследовать. Давай, это достижение. Это достижение исследования. Палеонтолог. Хорошее достижение, вовремя открыто. Только... Нет.
He thought. Why did it have to be wallabies?
Кенгуру подумал. Почему именно кенгуру? Что там свистюли? Ой, это я в прошлый раз этот кусочек видел, красный этот. О, камень. Крутя. Таких камней нет. Фамильные драгоценности это. В Steam.
Beat Bernardo and hot potatoes.
Даже лавочки без сюда, что-то он закидывает куда-то. Так, подожди, это что такое? Называется подозревака, что финиш. Ой, нет, может, скорее всего, здесь. Твою... Не, подожди. Ты меня уже... О! Короче, го умирать.
Where was the cake? He'd been promised cake.
Хрен. Короче, понял. Пойти в главное меню. Давай заново этот уровень. Да 100 пудов верно шел. Я когда понял, что верно шел, все, не выпускает. Этот свиток что-то должен очень
As she set foot in the
полезное
island,
дать.
Bernardo couldn't help feeling a bit curious.
Давай, быстро.
Was Lapino still waiting to be rescued?
И завтра уже пройти.
He was probably drinking champagne with the ravens. Did ravens drink champagne? Did rabbits? Bernardo felt oddly
Ладно,
thirsty.
попробуем
Come to think of it.
сегодня.
Why had he chosen the Sky Ripper? Renardo never made plans that required constant vigilance. He was a hero. He didn't think too much. He just went with his gut and hoped it all worked out. The Sky Ripper was a long shot. He'd have to devote himself to it. No side journeys, no rescuing old friends. That was against his nature. Could he stick with it? And this is why heroes are called dashing, Renardo thought. See? Dashing? Get it?
Камень это уже круто, конечно. Давайте, ворота. И go.
These things really slice like ham.
В прошлый раз-то взял типа.
The people who had built this castle, did they even know what monstrous weapon lay hidden within their walls? The Sky Ripper could destroy anything it touched, or so the legend said. As the Transcendent Emperor had fought the lost gods, thousands of thousands had died. But Renardo had been through wars. The only merciful war was a short one.
Открывай. Да, пойду к свитку-то, ну, мне интересно,
He needed some way to break the ice with this wall, so to speak.
Погнали.
Barely landed a claw on him.
Без убийства, самоцвет. Боже ты мой, чё творю? Слишком уже поспешил. Погнали, погнали.
Chill out.
Окно закроем. Да, граждане. Сюда уже мы ученые. Так. Теперь к свитку. Истинная история Небореза окутана туманом. Самая достоверная версия гласит, что трансцендентный император воспользовался неборезом, чтобы изгнать Иблиса. После этого... трансцендентный император захоронил оружие и исчез. Сам ли он отправился в изгнание, чтобы избавить мир от последнего божества, или же такова была цена, плаченная за использование столь колоссальной силы? Не мог ли неборез иметь с Иблисом связь более глубокую, нежели оружие со своей жертвой? Мои ритуалы должны призвать камень Иблиса. Возможно, мне следует задуматься о том, что они также извлекают на поверхность и неборез. Тогда мне следует его отыскать, не жалея средств. Оружие, способное изгнать божество, бесценный аргумент для древних. Когда бы те пожелали меня обхитрить. Ха. Такое было бы в их стиле. Но поведение божеств предсказуемо, и я всегда буду опережать их на шаг. Тайный дневник императора из Инклима Третьего. Тут типа до него был какой-то император. Вот, давай.
I wonder what happens if I go that way.
Мне тоже интересно, что случится. Погнали. Так, опять. Судя по тому, что здесь это фигня. Ага, я понял. Ну.
Once you try it, you're hooked.
Не вижу! Прикольно. Вот всех убивать. О, это на весь экран стена.
A gem of power. You don't find those every day.
Камень выпал. В теории могу сложить целую перчатку, только надо повозки. Это здесь была повозка? Нет. Это не вернемся. Открывай давай. Погнали дальше.
We'll always have Paris,
Париж,
he thought.
Париж всегда будет с нами.
And then he died.
Потом умер. Эй,
Renato hated Gogler.
твою ж мать, боже, да как это я сделал? Аллилуйя. Думаешь, что я к нему достреливал? Вот смотри, ну как? Почему он вот так не попадает?
He said to no one in particular
Вот зато
as he died.
открыл какое-то достижение. Закрой глаза. всех перебьем, а то я знаю, одного не убьют, потом случайно его... Попадите ты по нему, господи, великий воин. Охренеть. С метра не попал.
Burn.
Ah, a puzzle. We're not enough puzzles.
Головолом.
Except when you couldn't figure them out. On the other hand, if there was a puzzle, it was probably meant to keep people away from something good.
Вот тут. Ой. Или наоборот, сюда лучше. Обычно все, что так открывается через такой хитрый.
It was time for a little exploration.
Завис и умрет. Достижение в Steam. Нормально. Да. Погнали обратно. Эй, что за дичь? Что за дичь?
Bye-bye, life, he thought.
Прощай, жизнь, подумал.
Hello, emptiness.
Тут сейчас меня поубивают в этом месте 100 раз. Достижение называется. Это пехотинец. Консервированный. Блин.
He really wasn't making a dent in those shields. Magical jewel.
Охотник за сокровищем.
Bernardo couldn't wait to find a workbench.
Я тоже захотел поскорее найти верстак.
That had been his mistake
Он
before,
спас почти, сможет
thinking he could win a battle of wills with an ancient evil all by himself.
Или смелее, или что-то
He
еще.
had to be cleverer than that. Or braver. Or something.
See? That wasn't so hard.
Ой-ой-ой, почти прошел. Ха-ха.
There it was. Sky Ripper's armature. The stuff that dreams are made of. Engineers' dreams, anyway. The device was intricate. No one alive had the skill to make a thing like it. How was it part of a weapon at all? He'd have to ask a scientist. But first, he'd get the second piece. Sky Ripper had a heart. A core that had come to... There was another island he could reach. Zenobia had just invaded it with her father's Raven battalions. She must be encamped there still. But fighting Zenobia now, that made no sense at all. He'd already sacrificed one friend to get this armature, was it? He didn't need to hurry to face her. She would find him.
Ну, в теории надо найти ядро.
It was a no-brainer. He'd sacrificed his old friend Lapino to get the armature. And the armature was useless by itself, only a series of coils and wheels. War demanded sacrifices, and he would make more before the end. He would have to choose the greatest good, no matter how much it cost him. Zenobia. Well, he would see her sooner or later, across a battlefield or a sword's point before all this was over. He was sure of that. The power was in the core. Obviously, he had to get the core.
Ну, хотя бы мы, возможно, выживем.
He looked up at the old trees around him. They were so big and so old. They'd been there before he was born, and they'd be there after he'd passed into legend.
Ой, прикольно.
Was he confronting his own unimportance?
Дичь летает.
To him, he was no philosopher.
Так,
anyway, who cares? He was plenty important. He was a hero, and soon he'd prove it.
Great. Давай. Так, у нас как раз...
You never knew where the road would take you, thought Fernando.
Давай. Уже лежит в другой ячейке. Окей. Охотник за сокровищем, говорится, для повышения шанса на редкую добычу. 1% и за убийство противника вам возвращается стрим. Давай этот. Ну и так как у нас их всего 3. Давай. Прям вот. Подожди, а там типа без камня не светилось. Прикольно. Так, свернись. О, свиток. Почитаем. Давай. Дорогая Зенобия, директор Академии рассказывал мне, как он впечатлен твоими успехами в учебе и лидерскими качествами. Едва ли это был рядовой подхалимаш, его я повидал достаточно. Старая жаба говорила искренне. Дочь моя, я тобой горжусь. Когда-нибудь ты станешь прекрасной императрицей. Давай, чтобы меня отлично... Что до меня отличные новости. Профессор Калаварис, изучая Нексус, сделал примечательное наблюдение. Эта жаба — настоящий гений. Ты знаешь, насколько уникален тот остров? Он постоянно меняется. Порождает новые образования, некоторых части острова сливаются, разделяются, медленно дрейфуют, скованные друг с другом незримыми цепями. Прям в голове сразу. Скованные одной цепью. Профессор Калаварис убежден, что эти изменения не случайны. Они указывают, что острова живые. Он обнаружил, что определенные изменения на Нексусе сопутствуют резким переменам на другом острове. Это оползни. землетрясения, наводнения. Создается впечатление, что Нексус реагирует на эти события. Быть может, острова обладают коллективным разумом, а Нексус — это их мозг. Как бы то ни было, я учредил на Нексусе постоянную научную обсерваторию. Она привлечет лучшие умы Империи во главе с профессором Калаварисом. Я предвкушаю наступление великой эры просвещения в Империи. С любовью, Отец. Ну как я это делаю? Почему я...
Actually, several buckets.
Возможно, выжили, но это не точно. Вы пришлось похоронить его в ведре. Даже в нескольких ведрах. Жесть. Давай. Ну, появляйся.
Like a doofus of ravens?
Шарами контаре.
Those shoes were really very well made, weren't they?
Да, со мной сейчас рядом какая-то ворона каркнет, и у меня тип сдохнет. Физическая сопротивляемость. О, это не помешает, кстати. Твою...
Slippy's hit, he thought.
Что я так тупашился. Сразу возьмем этого друга. Ну возьми ты его, я тебе очень прошу. Ты можешь просто кнопку зажать.
Well, you should see the other guy. There was something sour in the air. Like the earth had ruptured over something that had been fermenting for a very long time. Or I could go that way, he thought. You almost never saw wild gogglers together like this. The toads had to train them not to peck each other to death. So these had to be imperial gogglers. That meant ravens were up ahead. He hoped his hook didn't break.
Я думал просто, ну, этим типом можно быстрее. Он тоже какой-то путь есть.
everyone knew how to use magical gems. Of course, not everyone had magical gem gauntlets like he did. There were fewer and fewer trees. There were only these huge crystalline growths. Had those been here before? He no longer heard birds except for the feverish cawing of the ravens when they attacked. He couldn't smell the small animals of the forest. The mice and rabbits. Where had they gone? And he was getting hungry too. This was an unhealthy place to be.
Давай сюда пойдем, давай, давай.
Nara hoped his mother wasn't watching.
Ага, я понял. Теперь возвращаемся назад.
This couldn't be good for global warming.
Это усилит. А ты чё? Есть тут игре то, что после какого-то рычага надо достать его с одной стороны. Это хорошо.
The 20-sided core made him feel
Тигранное
physically
ядро
sick.
буквально вызывало у него тошноту.
Once he had sneaked
Однажды
into a
он
temple of
прокрался
the
в храм
dark
черной
arts,
магии,
and
ему
he
очень
hadn't
не
liked what he
понравилось,
smelt
что
and
он
saw
там
there.
чуял.
This felt like that.
Теперь он чувствовал
As quick as he could, he wrangled the icosahedron into the armature. The wheels began to spin, then glow. The sick feeling quickly spun away. Now he only felt sad. He had lost good friends for this war apparatus. Maybe Lapino wasn't such a good friend. Yeah, that made him feel better. He carried his prize back to the Farfarer. Now, he had to make his next move. There was a key Imperial outpost on the Nexus. If this really was some sort of super weapon, he could use it to wreak havoc on the enemy. And if it wasn't, well, better to know that before the final battle. But maybe he should show it to some scientists first. There was an observatory on the Nexus. Maybe he should go there before he fired it.
Ну, в этот раз-то уже должно быть как-то по-другому, по-моему. Ну, типа, если я сюда схожу... Легко сразу фигачится, да? Кажется, это хороший вариант. Наверное.
Renato had never been much of a student. At Sword Fu School, he'd never read the books,
just looked at the pictures.
Картинки из Зенобии.
And Zenobia. But weapons he understood. His gut told him that the Sky Ripper would work great. He would use it to take out the Imperial outpost. And what's the worst that could happen? The thing wouldn't work, and then he'd take it to the scientists. Right? Exactly.
Да, давай, я тоже думаю. Сразу повоюем, да и все.
As he set out down the path, Renato wondered why the parts of the Sky Ripper had only surfaced now, thousands of years after the Transcendent Emperor had discarded it. This Emperor, Isengrim III, had performed terrible, bloodthirsty rituals to invoke the lost gods. Perhaps that was bringing up lost artifacts. How perfect, then, that the Sky Ripper would reappear to be his destruction.
What kind of raven can't fly? Thought Renato.
Что, все? Вот это я поднялся ради этого сюда? А, сюда еще можно.
Renato wondered idly if people who had built these poles had really, really long tentacles. Was tired of slaughtering ravens. Maybe it was time to test out the new weapon. He turned a knob on the Sky Ripper. It made strange, mechanical noises. The wheels spun faster. It began to hum. The Sky Ripper was following his every step. At least it acknowledged him as the master. But there was no trigger. How was he supposed to fire it? Fire, he said. Nothing happened. Well, maybe it just needed to warm up. After all, it hadn't been fired in thousands of years.
Он уже 1000 лет не стрелял.
Hey, a workbench! He could try out his new bling.
Так, скорость атаки. Физическое сопротивление к физическому рыбацкому проценту. Отлично. Говорится, как повышение шанса на редкую добычу. Скорость, энергия, мне так кажется, лучше всего. Ай, сюда хочу.
The Sky Ripper was making a whining noise now, and its wheels were spinning so fast he could no longer see them.
Bernardo had a thought. Please?
Пожалуйста, прости,
He
я
asked.
засветился. Бабах,
Sky
пламя
Ripper
охватило
began to
лампост.
glow. Boom! The outpost burst into flame. Ravens flapped out screaming, wings on fire. The base was his. The far-speaker toad came hopping out. Bernardo! It croaked, sounding like a toad version of Zenobia.
Don't use the Sky Ripper. It will destroy the world.
Yeah, sure it will, cracked Bernardo. Pull the other one.
If you don't trust me, go see Calaveras. He'll tell you the same thing.
Oh, she would say that. That sounded sensible. Why did she always have to sound sensible all the time? Oh, it was infuriating. Of course she would say that. He was supposed to hurry and bring the Sky Ripper to the council so the rebels could actually win the war. But what if she was right? Damn it.
Варианты. Достать небес повстанца. Варианты. Пойти к этим. Спросить этих. Ну, еще к этим не ходили.
Just this once, he would not let Zenobia get into his head with her logic and her wisdom and her appeals to reason. He was a fox.
Не поверит.
He'd go with his instincts, and it would all work out like it always did. Oh, he was sounding like a reckless idiot even to himself. But if there was one thing Renato could never bring himself to do, it was turn back on a decision he'd made.
Ну да, но тупо, потому что это как обезьяны с гранатой, 100%. Но тем-то мы уже ходили, и этот Болтус посреди боя сел медитировать.
Imperials were flapping and cawing all around the ruins. They must be panicking with rumors flying of the superweapon. Maybe they hoped to find and destroy the base before he could put the Sky Ripper into action. The Sky Ripper was whining and heating up. It would be time to use that energy soon.
Мне кажется, они просто сами себя взорвут и ас.
Bernardo, smash!
Стопэ. Стань, ты с этой стороны открой.
There was an inscription on the platform. Balaleka lessons with an address.
Каких рыда балалайки. И адрес. Не туда можно. Вот этот я пока не могу открыть.
What else could you hook?
Ай. И там вариант пойти не сюда. Надо было вниз спуститься сюда. Хотя. Если такой вариант
was a pleasant breeze coming through that door. Had it been closed
Было
before?
закрыто. Это, конечно, все заметили, 100%. Это прикольный камушек. Критический шанс. Ой-ой-ой, отлично.
This sword from the mystical east could make time itself slow for you.
Погнали. Наконец-то мы его сложили.
Where did that go to?
Меч, ключ, достижение твое. Скорость атаки. Сплять стихия.
What was Zenobia talking about? This was a fantastic weapon. Ravens burst into flames with just a touch of its killer beam. He was tempted to leave it on all the time, but he didn't want to accidentally slice off some council toad's head or tongue. She'd been trying to distract him. Well, this time, no one was going to distract him. These things could really use a hand.
Попади ты.
Open, says me. The long stairs. So he was close to the rebel base. Nothing was on fire. So far, so good.
О, интересно, у вас база станция. Прямо с боссом еще. Почему на базе повстанцев вороны? Ой, блин. устал. Сколько мы уже играем-то? Часа. Подозреваю, что сейчас мы сюда пойдем. Устал, что ли, уже как-то. Что за говно происходит? Надо придумать, как сейчас сделать.
Only he had some way to break the ice, or convince it he was a friend.
Все нормально. Сыграл более аккуратно, и все.
Had that door been opened before? As he headed towards the council chamber, Renato felt everyone watching him.
"You've saved the rebellion," said the council speaker. "Frankly, we were afraid you'd turn aside to see that idiot Lapino."
Not bloody likely, Renato told them, feeling he was maybe being a bit harsh on the poor mad rabbit.
If you never make sacrifices, he said, you're probably not doing the right thing. The speaker nodded.
"Are you ready to lead the charge?"
Let's roll,
He said, with grim satisfaction.
Renato set sail for the fleet. The Sky Ripper had lost its wine.
It was humming now, as if it had taken some time to seat properly.
He had always been irresponsible.
This time, he'd done the right thing, made the hard decisions. He was a real hero. He hadn't let himself be distracted by old friends or old lovers turned enemies. Finally, he could be proud of himself.
Коль гордился собой, то давай. Да, прям Индиана Джонс в лисьей шкуре. Так, все. Вот туда надо.
He was ready. So was Sky Ripper. The Sky Ripper had a will of its own. It picked out its own targets and set them on fire. This was going to be a short battle. He would set the ships on fire if he didn't need them to get to the Emperor. And he wondered if he'd see Zenobia, or if she'd flee. Wouldn't she be proud of him? At least, a bit of respect. He'd become an all-conquering hero. Maybe I should follow my nose, thought Renato.
Well, he'd always wanted to do that.
Сделаем с этими щитами вечно таким оружием. Шанс критического удара. Нет?
He was sort of yanking his own chain, wasn't he? There was a parchment on a signpost. It was from her.
Every time you fire, you risk the destruction of the universe. That's insane. We surrender. A trick? Maybe she really believed it. He could hear horns blaring the retreat. Maybe it was true. Maybe they had one.
Такая подозревака, что...
For once, he didn't have anything clever to say. So he died.
Достижения, вороны и лисицы. Очень много достижений и прям... Я в прошлый раз очень много открыл, в этот раз.
There was an engraving. Maximum capacity 130.
Моментально. Моментально просто. Давайте хоть этот вариант будет. Нет, это здесь тоже. Ты как думаешь?
Where Renato went next, we cannot follow. Yet.
Я главное, что понимаю такое, надо не прыгать. Мне ж, блин, интересно, в теории может и все закончится опять не очень хорошо. Нет, давай. Ладно, что сюда. Это мы все варианты спробовали. Только что был вариант сразу к этим бой, не идти к этим. Сразу биться и
And there was Zenobia.
wearing the white robes of surrender.
И вот ее
She
Зенобия
came
белые
and
одежды
kneeled before him. Why didn't you listen to
Почему
me?
ты меня не послушал?
I was trying to
Пыталась
save you
спасти
too.
тебя тоже.
You're the enemy.
Ты
He
враг,
said,
ответил он.
I was never your enemy, Renato. Then she spoke a terrible word and made a gesture with her hand. She stopped moving, covered in frost, and he wondered why she'd frozen herself.
Она заморозилась.
Then the Sky Ripper froze, and then for a moment he felt very cold and discovered that he couldn't move. The next thing he knew, the sun was a giant, monstrously red. It took up half the sky, and he was in a parched red desert. And then he was on fire. And just like that, he was alive again.
Короче,
And
взорвалась,
back on the
как она
Farfair,
и говорила,
still
все.
fleeing burning Ubar. The book was still open before him. So, the book was a
Она
portal.
заморозила его, себя,
It took you to the
и шар.
future, when your
Всё равно
destinies would branch. He had failed
Он
and
ошибся
died
трижды.
3 times, but he'd learned
Но он
another
понял еще
true
одну
thing.
важную вещь.
Zenobia
Зенобия
still
всё
had
еще
feelings for him.
неравнодушна к нему. У Зенобии есть чувство к Ренарду.
But he was starting to
Но у
feel
него
like he
появилось
was
чувство,
getting
что
the hang
он
of
уже
this.
набил руку.
There was a way
Победе
through to
существует.
victory.
Он чувствует
He could
это.
feel it.
Нужно просто продолжать
He
бежать
just
по пути
had to
судьбы.
keep running the path of destinies. With that, the book fluttered back to the beginning.
Страниц
And he
книги
fell
вернулись
into
на
it.
начало, и он упал в нее.
The clouds parted over the Isles of Boreas. It was time to choose. The rebellion was in trouble. Ravens were scouting for the secret rebel base. They needed a game changer. Pieces of the Sky Ripper had surfaced. Or so a scholar in the mountains had told him. Surely the weapon that banished the lost gods could defeat the Emperor. Also, a temple had risen out of empty desert. The Iblis stone was hidden there. It was a dangerous artifact. It could corrupt its user into a bloodthirsty monster. Maybe he could find a way to
Так.
use
Ладно,
it,
сейчас
to
дослушаем.
take its power without
Выберем
surrendering to
опять
its wickedness.
вариант такой, что
And
надо...
also, his old friend Lapino needed rescuing. Of course, Renato had a pretty strong suspicion that Lapino had betrayed the rebellion. But could Renato really leave an old friend to the Ravens?
Ладно. Продолжим в следующий раз. Сегодня и так достаточно. Поиграли, и в этот раз мы открыли еще 2 пути к ключу. Здесь, получается, мы открыли то, что... Да. Нашли каркас, ядро, атаковали аванпост и встретились с советом, где его прям любимое это. Его заморозило, спасла от смерти, но все остальное пошло по жопе. И также вариант, где он осознал, скажем так, истину, все тому подобное, сел помедитировать. Вороны не медитируют, и его убили, пока он медитировал. Оба конца, все 3 варианта плохие. Это, так, подожди, вернуться. Это у нас открыт 15, 7 и 5. Так, ну все, на сегодня все. Кто смотрел, ставил лайки. Спасибо. Всем удачи. Пока-пока.